You are listening to the CWL podcast. Are you ready? What's up, everybody? It's Kate. I am the host of the Creative Women's League podcast. Listen, being a creative entrepreneur can be downright terrifying at times, right? Full of self-doubt, overwhelm. You're not quite sure what the next move is for you. But don't worry. The Creative Women's League is here with the motivation, inspiration, know-how, and community to guide you to become the badass business entrepreneur you know you can be. We do that via 2 weekly podcasts. Every Monday we get together for Mindful Monday and chat, get ourselves in the right mindset to achieve all week long. And then, of course, today's episode. These are the Wednesday interview episodes. I get to talk to a new creative badass every single week. And she tells us how she overcame all those scary, yucky feelings to create the badass biz we all know and love today. You also have community over on Instagram at Creative Women's League. Share your wins, your awesome creations with the hashtag Creative Women Rock. Last but not least, get over there. Join the Facebook group, Creative Women's League. On Facebook, you can like our page and you can join the Facebook group. That is your community that understands what you're going through. They know the trials and tribulations. They know how exciting and wonderful the wins are. And you're going to have lots of wins because you are a badass. Duh. Listen, Wonder Woman might have had her lasso, but you can do one better because you have the Creative Women's League. I am so freaking excited to get this episode to you today. This is a long time in the making. Jenn and I recorded this a while ago. I was really sick at the time, which you can hear. I think this was the episode that just beforehand I tried to pop my ears and couldn't hear anymore. So I had to figure that out real quick before this episode got recorded. We had every issue. It's really just the testament of being a creative entrepreneur and figuring things out as you go and not panicking. We had dogs barking. I think at one point I sneeze coughed and it was weird. I think I edited that out. I did as best as I could, you guys. But we made it happen and I'm so glad we did. You are going to love this episode with Jenn. You really are. She is fantastic. She went from almost burning down her apartment building and having no money in her account to creating one of the most well-known and beloved vegan eateries here in Orlando. I'm in love with her and you will be too. You really will be. Her energy is infectious. So infectious. Before we get started with that, you guys know the drill if you've been here before. It's time to read a review. Now, if this is your first time, I gotta tell you, the best thing you can do for any podcast you listen to, any app you use, okay, the second best thing. The first best thing is share it and share it often and get as many people into it as you can. The second best thing you can do is so simple. Just write a review. If you write a review for podcasts big or small, you are helping them massively. So I always ask you guys, please head over to iTunes, share a review for this podcast. It means the world to me. If you don't listen on iTunes, a review on our Facebook page works just as beautifully. To thank you for taking the time to do this, I read your review out loud right here on the podcast. So don't forget to leave your Instagram name so I can be sending all these amazing creative women over your way. So today's review reads, wonderful for creative entrepreneurs. 5 stars. I love Kate's podcast. This is one of my tippy-top podcasts that I listen to while I sew products for my shop. She keeps me feeling motivated and helps me feel more confident that I am on the right path and I just gotta keep moving. She is so sincere and you can tell how much she cares about helping women do their thing. Listen to this podcast next time your hands are busy making at jessicajoy.art.craft. So like I said, that's at jessicajoy.art.craft. Thank you so much, Jessica. Jessica is one of the amazing members of the Creative Women's League community that I have watched grow immensely over our past year together. Having kept up with her via the hashtag and her being so involved over in the group, I know that she's been here a long time and has done amazing things So if you want to be awesome like Jessica, go get involved. Join the Facebook community. Thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate you more than you know. And I hope to be reading your review here next week. I want to be saying your Instagram name. So get into iTunes, get onto the Facebook. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. All right. Are you sick of me talking? I mean, you still have a long time of me talking, but I know you want to hear Jenn, and I understand. It's awesome. You are going to love this episode. So I will shut up and let you listen to the wonderful, bubbly, fantastic woman that is Jenn Ross. Hi, Jenn. How are you?
I am fantastic, Kate. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have to apologize to everybody because I am sick. So I sound crazy right now. But
well, I don't know what normal for you sounds like, so I'm with it.
That's true. Yeah, you just think I'm this sultry all the time. I've got this sultry, husky voice all the time.
The composer voice.
Yeah. Well, I have my headphones turned up to about 20 because I can't hear anything. So that's exciting. You know?
Oy.
Yeah. So, Jenn, will you introduce yourself to everybody who's listening?
Sure. My name is Jenn. I often go by Chef Jenn. I am the owner and operator of DaJen, where we focus on vegan living with a Jamaican flair. Which should tell you a couple things about me. One, that I'm really funny, and two, that I'm really cute. No.
Perfect. I love it.
Tells you that I'm both vegan and Jamaican. We have a cafe here in Orlando. We're moving to a new place in Eatonville. And I'm excited to be here talking with you.
I'm excited to have you. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Really excited to hear your story. How long have you been vegan?
I've been vegan for, I believe, about 6 years.
That's awesome. That takes a lot of discipline. I think at first it does. Does it take discipline every single day now?
I think it's easier based on why you go vegan. I think, and there's my dog there. I've had him for over a decade. And despite my vigorously rubbing his head, he's still talking. So
he wants to be interviewed too.
He wants to be interviewed. Well, yeah, I think that there are 500 million different reasons to come to the vegan table. And however you get there is fantastic. But I think some reasons make it easier to remain that way than others. For example, you can come to the vegan table for health reasons. You can come to the vegan table for environmental reasons, or you can come to the vegan table because you want to live out your compassion. And I think for me, based on, having spoken with a lot of people, that the compassionate reasons tend to be the ones that are easier to maintain. Yeah. In the sense that you're really thinking, okay, is my desire for this meat more important than this animal's right to live? Or is my hunger more important than my compassion? And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's really not as hard. But for me, for someone like me who struggles with my weight, if I were to come to veganism because of health, I'm pretty sure it would not have stuck, because I'm so just, yeah.
Yeah, because we're all ready to put our health on the back burner, or at least a lot of us are, right? It's like, I'll worry about my health tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, like this one little piece of bacon is not going to hurt. I'll eat bacon not tomorrow.
Yeah. And Orlando is a wonderful place to be vegan. I mean, honestly, chefs like you are making it much easier for people to be vegan in Orlando.
Yeah, I think there was an article that came out recently that declared Orlando as the third most vegan-friendly city in the U.S. And of course, they had different metrics to determine that. One of them being how many, not just vegan restaurants, but how many restaurants had vegan options. And I think that's really exciting. What I love particularly about being in Orlando is you have different flavors of vegan food. So a Jamaican flavor is not your thing. There is Thai vegan. Yeah. There is North Carolina vegan at Market and South. There is, I think, like a soul food vegan at, just when it was on the tip of my head. There's this new vegan place in Castleberry, okay, when this comes out, I'm going to face so much heat because they're really good friends of mine, and I can't remember the name.
No. We'll have to like edit it in. We'll take a clip of you saying it, and it'll just be like, and that place.
Yes. So I think that it's so easy now in Orlando to go vegan because whatever your flavor profile is, there is a vegan restaurant that can produce that.
Yeah. And like you said, sort of based on those metrics, because I have a sister who's vegan and then one sister who, she mostly eats vegan, once again, for health purposes and things like that. Mm-hmm. Dairy is not so great for her. But we have, when she started 5 years ago, it was a lot harder than it is now to go to restaurants with her. Mm-hmm. We used to only have 1 or 2 places. We'd have to go to a vegan place or else she was eating salad. And now it's just really fun to watch your city grow up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's amazing. And I think Orlando is a reflection of the national demand.
Yeah.
Because I think people all over the country, for many different reasons, are starting to demand more plant-powered food. And so the economics of it makes sense. Like people want this stuff, the supply, the demand is there. And so the supply is now, rising to meet that demand.
Yes, absolutely. And so here's my question about Jamaican vegan food. Is that a natural pairing or is it something that you get odd looks for? Like I know certain cuisines lend themselves to a vegan lifestyle really well and others not so much.
I think you get odd looks based on the word vegan, and I'll tell you why. So we don't use the word vegan in Jamaica much, or at least traditionally we didn't. But we have a very large Rastafarian population, and they more often than not have a strict plant-powered diet that they refer to as Ita living. So like if you were to bump into a Jamaican and you'd say, hey, I have some vegan food for you, they'd be like, what the heck is that? But if you told them Ita food, they'll know exactly what you're talking about and what to expect. So I think that it's not necessarily mutually exclusive, veganism and Jamaican food. It's just different terminologies and then perhaps the different reasons you would get to that point.
So I think it's really interesting that there already is, I guess it's not veganism, but Jamaica's own version of veganism already kind of built in. So it's really just the English word of vegan that's kind of the barrier there.
Well, yes, and the ideology behind it. I think for the Rastafarianism, the Ita living is more a religious thing.
Okay.
They, I think it has something to do with the Nazarene vow, kind of like, what was it, Daniel from the Bible?
Okay.
Yeah, and the the 3 Hebrew boys in the fire and they didn't eat, they were fasting. But yeah, it goes way back to that sort of thing. So they come to the plant-powered table based on their religious beliefs. But the product, the food itself, it is definitely plant-powered and people know what to expect from that.
That is awesome. That's real. I love learning things that I had no idea existed. That's great. So have you always been, veganism is, I mean, in the span of your life, fairly new for you, but have you always been a chef?
Oh my goodness, no.
That's not what I expected after the oh my goodness.
No, there are days when I'm pretty convinced I'm still not a chef.
So when did you take an interest in cooking? When did that happen?
I started when I came here is in America. I left Jamaica when I was 16 to come here for college. And I didn't really come here with family. And I learned that to continue enjoying certain luxuries like eating and living inside, I needed to stop eating out. And so I learned how to cook. I learned how to cook from the brilliant school of Google.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It was horrible. It was horrific. I almost burned down my apartment. So I think one particular experience that I will never forget, and I'm sure my neighbors at that time will not forget. I was making ackee and saltfish. So ackee and saltfish is like this traditional Jamaican dish. It's actually our national dish. And I was in college at the time, and the college years are the most brilliant years of your life. Like you know no more than ever, right? So I'm boiling saltfish, which is salted cod or bacalao, and I leave it on the stove, and go to class.
Leave it on, okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And by leaving it on the stove, I mean leave it with the stove lit and boiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I come back, and there's this bunch of people gathered on my back step, and I was not nearly as sociable or social as I am right now. So I decided I just don't want to deal with people. I'm going to walk through the front door and pretend that there's not like 12 people on my back door, right?
Yeah.
And I walk in, and the place it's smoky and it's dense, and you're like, what happened? And I went to my neighbors and I realized, okay, you have to go talk to them.
Yeah.
My kitchen door, my back door, was in 2 pieces. So what had happened was the smoke was going off. Of course, it was like a series of unfortunate events. It was lunchtime, so the apartment manager had gone for lunch, and I was gone, and the neighbors didn't think that the fire truck would come nearly as quickly as they needed to, so they broke down the back door to get into the kitchen to turn off whatever craziness I was creating there. There was never a fire, in my defense. There was smoke. And lots of smoke alarm and all of that. And this was the first week of me moving into the apartment complex.
Oh my gosh. So what a welcome this was for you.
Yeah, I wasn't very liked.
Yeah.
In that complex. It didn't last. I think I moved like a couple weeks later.
Oh, did you really?
You could just feel the stares.
Yeah. They're like, that's the woman who's going to burn this place down.
Yeah.
With her cooking adventures.
Yes. So yeah, that was my first time cooking ackee and saltfish.
Okay. So not a natural ability to cook. You were not a chef from the time you were little. Nothing like that.
No.
So how does it go from burning down your apartment and then almost burning down your apartment?
Let's clarify that.
Almost. And having to move to starting your own restaurant?
Oy. Okay.
I know it's a long story, I bet.
There's quite
an hour
between there and that. Okay. Let's see. So I decide when I like a thing, I get like fully immersed in it, right?
Yes.
I decide I like food science, and I'm going to get my hands on everything food science. And I studied food science in great detail. And I quickly realized that the more I studied food science, and I realized that once you've mastered or have a good grasp on basic cooking techniques, that you'll have more reliable results. Is that the word that I want to go for?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so the more reliable your results, the more enjoyable your experience. And that just spiraled into one thing. And I'm very excited about, like, I'm a food geek.
Yeah. That's great.
And I started this Facebook page called At Home with Jenn. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, guys, I just learned this new technique and you should totally do it too. And did you know that if you add salt at this time in the cooking process, it does this to the texture and flavor, versus later in the cooking process, it changes the flavor in this way? And I'm like totally geeking out on food. And people were into it. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't think of that. And so then I would study more and I'd learn something new and I would share it on the At Home with Jenn page. And then I started this, someone invited me to be a part of, it's a blog thing, but you got 2 really random ingredients and you were supposed to create one meal from 2 crazy things that are not supposed to go together.
Okay.
And then it's like how do I explain it? And then you all posted your menu at a certain time and then you had links to each other's blogs and so forth.
That sounds awesome. It's like a little Chopped challenge, but just in this blogosphere.
Yes, but I didn't have a blog.
Oh.
And that's essentially how I started with a blog, to be a part of this chop challenge. And then that blog led to a few websites that I did myself that were ridiculously painful to look at. And then they're like, I can cook. There's not much else that I can do, but yeah, I can cook. And I met up with these two really amazing people, Nicole and Jean Perpelant from Design Theory. And they gave me a professional as all get out website. And that really kind of got the ball rolling. I think people are more willing to invest in you once they've realized that you've invested in yourself and your own brand.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That is awesome advice.
A long way. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. No, I really think it is, because at first you're really scared, right? You don't want to put money into something that's a hobby, or you don't think, maybe nobody even cares about it, but how's anybody going to take you seriously if you aren't taking yourself seriously?
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. So a professional website, a professional photo shoot, and then that got everybody into thinking that I'm a professional.
So how many years ago was this?
So the very first thing ever that I did for DaJen Eats, outside of, sharing the At Home with Jen page, was a demo at Vegetarians of Central Florida's Veg Fest.
Oh, okay.
In October of 2015.
Oh, wow.
That was really when things got started. And that got started really in an interesting way. Can I share that with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we had moved, my ex-husband and I had moved to Orlando. He had gotten a job offer in Orlando. We had a house in Crystal River, and it's like, if I have to give up my house in the bushes to come live in the town, it's going to have to make sense, right? Mm-hmm. So we got this apartment, and I said, okay, so this living room is not going to be a living room. It's going to be an office. And we didn't have a couch. Like, I'm not getting a couch. I'm not getting anything that's remotely comfortable. It's going to be an office, and this is where I'm going to work, because Orlando is going to make sense for me too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I love it.
And so I Googled, because I don't know if you're familiar with Crystal River, but it's not known for being Jamaican or vegan.
I didn't think so.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So I get to Orlando, and I Google vegans, and oh my goodness, there's a vegan meetup. And they're going to Kale Cafe in Daytona Beach. And I immediately signed up with the Vegetarians of Central Florida, and this guy named Larry, he's like, okay, so I drive a Prius. I don't pay for gas. Anybody wants to carpool? And I said, me. And I drove with him, right? And we're on our way to Daytona Beach. And I had just moved to Orlando, and he said, so Jen, what do you do? And I'm thinking, well, right now I don't do anything, but that sounds really kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I teach cooking classes. He's like, you do? I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, fantastic. You should do a cooking demo at Veg Fest. And I'm sinking in my chair like, what the hell did I just get myself into?
That's amazing.
Like, what is Veg Fest, and why am I doing a cooking demo? And truth be told, I've never actually done a cooking demo in my entire life, but he doesn't need to know that. So I smiled and I said, sure. But you're thinking to yourself, this is a random car ride with a random guy who's just saying stuff nothing's going to come up, and you're safe. So 2 weeks later, I get an email. Hi, Jen, this is Larry. You rode with me to Daytona Beach. I'm the organizer of Veg Fest.
Oops.
Send me the information for your demo. And oh, by the way, we normally get around maybe 14,000 people. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, Veg Fest is huge.
It is huge. And I thought, okay, so you say that you teach cooking classes. Now is the time to put on your big girl pants and teach that class. And I did bread. My very first thing ever was to do a demo at Veg Fest on bread making. And that legitimately led to cooking classes, which led to people asking for the food, which led to meal plans, which then led to lunch deliveries, pop-ups, and ultimately the restaurant. And somewhere in between all of that, an ice cream line.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it, though. It all started with, like, a little leap that you took. It would have been so easy to not take that leap, to be like, oh no, Larry, I am busy that weekend.
I'm booked for 2 other events. Thank you very much. You're still very
Oh no, I'm way too busy. Yeah. But it would have been so easy to let your fear guide you away from that moment. Instead, you steer into it. And now look at all these awesome things. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I think that is so important for, at least for me to remember, because a friend of mine said to me the other day, oh my gosh, Jen, you're fearless. And I looked at her and I said, I'm absolutely not. I feel the fear every day, sometimes several times a day. But it's, we have to recognize fear for what it is and maybe sit with it for a second and go, okay, so that's what excitement feels like. And move on and feel the fear and do it anyway.
I love that.
We get into this idea when we see people do these amazing things that we feel like they're fearless, and we tell ourselves, well, if I'm feeling fear, that I'm not like them and I'm not on the right path. And that's not true. Just about everybody feels fear. They just, they channel it differently.
Yes, that is. And that's honestly what started the Creative Women's League, because I was one of those people who let fear stop me. Mm-hmm. Instead of propel me forward. And I was like, forget that. Like, I want to be like Jenn. I want to have it, launch me into new and exciting things. So that's a big deal at Creative Women's League, to kind of feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes.
So important. Okay, so I'd really like to talk about starting your pop-up kitchen, because is that where the first restaurant kind of started with you, was a pop-up kitchen?
No.
Okay.
Yes and no. So I'm contemplating just how personal I want to get.
That's all up to you. We get personal here, but you get to choose.
It's because I've been in places where I have witnessed women be transparent, and it's so transformative that I'm like, okay, maybe it's okay. Because in Jamaica, we grew up under the British school system, mm-hmm. which is all kinds of guarded, right?
Yeah.
And professional. You don't even, like, if you were writing essays in high school, you're not even allowed to use the word I. You can't say, I think this. You have to say some flowy prose like, it is, and the reader cannot miss how one would or one should think this way. And so you're taught to kind of hide yourself behind what one should do and one should think.
Yeah.
And it's
really
so
interesting.
protective. Yeah. And so you get the idea that you don't really show the human side of you, the personal side, the not so pretty, the not so clean side. And you take that privacy and you wear it kind of like an armor, right?
Yeah.
And then I come to America, which has a slightly different culture. And then you you grow up into the social media culture, which is entirely different.
Yeah.
But then I also realized that a lot of people who support DaJen Eats, essentially they support Jenn. And they're willing to walk on whatever crazy journey that I've found myself. And I think I owe it to them and also to me, because there's growth and transparency, to share some of the truth behind what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the question again?
I was wondering if did you start off with a pop-up kitchen and that led to a restaurant for you? Oh,
yeah. So back in, I want to say very, very late 2016, we're thinking November.
Okay.
December of 2016. I find myself at 32 going through what amounted to be the early steps of a divorce.
Okay.
I was separated from my husband, and the same gentleman I shared with you earlier was the entire reason I came here to Orlando.
Yeah.
And I think there is a safety in having a net. So I had DaJen Eats, and we were doing some really great things, but I was always playing it not as big as I could, because I always had this safety net. My husband was a software developer, and we did okay. And whether or not DaJen Eats the business did okay, the home would have been okay, because there's always that backup to fall back on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And having that walk out the door, it was an interesting experience. So I woke up in November, and I'm, in the mornings you check your bank account, you brush your teeth and all of that. And I checked my bank account. This is shortly after my husband had left, and there's $60 in my bank account. And I'm like, okay. Alrighty, sister. So the rent is due probably next week. You have enough dog food, so the dogs are going to be okay. Might be homeless in a couple of weeks. I think there's enough food in the fridge, and you're okay. What are you going to do? Are you going to call and cry to your husband and say, hey, can you please come back home? Are you going to go back to your corporate job, which I did not want to do? Right. Or are you going to really take this idea of DaJen Eats and really give it all that you've got? Because you've been playing around all this time, sister. You haven't actually given it everything that you've got because you've never had to.
Absolutely.
And so in that moment, I was like, okay, so we do or we die. And that's really how things started. And I got very serious and very intentional about the business. I started looking for avenues to meet people. How do I get my food in front of as many people as you can? And then this opportunity to be at the district market at Mills came along probably 3 days after waking up to $60 in my bank account.
Wow.
Yeah. I got this invitation. Hey, do you want to do... And it was so interesting, right? Because the invitation went to DeA. I used to have my ice cream at DeA restaurant. DeA was a beautiful vegan restaurant on Park Avenue. And so they used to, I used to promote DeA on my Instagram.
Yeah. And
when DeA closed, the owners from the district emailed the owner of DeA, thinking I was the owner of DeA, saying, hi, Jenn, would you like to do some pop-ups? And she was kind enough to forward the email to me, because the email didn't come to me.
Yeah.
So she was kind enough, to forward the email to me. And then I got in touch with the owners there, and we decided it would be, a good idea for us to work together and do pop-ups there. And that's kind of how that started, until, of course, that business relationship ran its course. And I think for me, one of the things, Kate, for me has always been, I found myself very reactive to things. So, you wake up and you have no money, and now you jump. You get this opportunity to work, and now that opportunity is no longer there, and now you jump. And so, because I think it's important to always, no matter how much your back is against the wall, to recognize the value that you bring to the table. If you find yourself in a situation where your business isn't being honored, it really is time to move on, no matter how much revenue that you could potentially get from that arrangement. Recognizing and honoring your business, for me, those are very important. And I think that the right opportunities that come for you, they will come without you having to sacrifice your dignity. And so when it was time to move on, of course, it was devastating, because I'm like, okay, so that served me so well in that period when I absolutely needed somewhere for people to see my face and to eat my food. Now what? And I was very upset, and I was on Craigslist just to amuse myself at how little I can afford a restaurant. Yeah. But why not? Let's just look at that. And I saw this one at the gas station. I was like, oh my God. I can actually afford this. But it's a gas station. It's never been done. It probably should have been done. Why hasn't it been done? This will promote veganism, because people can see that you can get food at the gas station, then it's pretty easy to go vegan. You can do this. And I'm like pumping myself up, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Then it's 8:00 on a Monday night, and I'm really kind of, when you're kind of half pumping yourself, but half knowing you're really not going to do this, you're just kind of kidding yourself. But I was reading this book called The 5-Second Rule. And the idea is that in 5 seconds, your brain can find 500 million reasons to convince you to not do a thing. So the idea is to literally count back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and launch without giving yourself time to think about it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to 5-second rule my way into calling the broker. It's 8:00 at night. I'm going to be off the hook because he's not going to answer. And all I need to do is call. That's it. And you're done.
Yeah.
So I call 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ring. Second ring, the guy picks up and I'm like, dang it.
No.
Dang it. Come on.
That's so funny. I know that feeling so well where you're like, I did this thing, but I really was hoping it wasn't going to pan out because I'm terrified.
Right. Right. And he said, well, why don't you meet me at the gas station tomorrow at 10? And we meet up and he's like, yeah, so you have restaurant experience and you can manage this, right? And I have never worked in a restaurant in my entire life. And I'm smiling at him like, sure, absolutely. I know what I'm doing. Why would you think otherwise?
I love it.
In the meantime, my stomach is in my toes. Like,
yeah, right? You're like, no. It's that funny thing where you're hoping that there's an out coming.
Right.
Like, they're going to say something and you're going to be able to go, oh, okay, I can't do that. Bye. And then the out never comes and you're like, oh, crap, this is now going to happen.
Right.
That's
and then
amazing.
I did this crazy thing. I signed the papers.
Oh. Uh-oh.
I called my friend Alex. I said, Alex, so we have a restaurant. He's like, what? Because I did not discuss with him the call from the day before. I said, so yeah, we're opening a restaurant and it gets better. Oh, there's more. It's in a gas station. He's like, what the hell? What are you doing?
That is so funny. But it's fantastic. And I think you're right. It's really smart. And what an awesome way to promote great vegan food. Because let's be honest, vegan food doesn't have the best reputation.
Yes.
With the masses for being something that's delicious and something like comforting and awesome to eat. But random people in a gas station can come eat this awesome food that you're making and leave with a better idea of what vegan food can be.
Yeah. There's this idea that it's not accessible, that it's for someone who has $500 million of disposable income.
Yeah.
And it's not for someone who necessarily looks like me. And I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah, or it's just rabbit food, right?
Yeah,
just salads. That's all you can eat. Beans and salads.
You can be vegan with 500 million different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go, because I think that there's a wide spectrum between replacing like a traditional sausage and going all the way to the end of the spectrum with a vegan sausage. There's so many things in between, you know. There, of course, because the vegan food tends not to be subsidized by the government, that it's going to be more expensive. But it doesn't have to be apples for apples. How about having a carrot? A carrot is inexpensive. But if you're going to go for like a vegan sausage, and yeah, it's probably going to be more expensive. Meat for meat, then it's going to be more expensive for many different reasons. But if you're replacing meat with something that's more plant-powered in its natural state, then no, it doesn't have to be nearly as expensive as we imagine that it is. And, you know, you can walk into the gas station and you can pump your gas and you can get vegan food and anybody can go vegan.
Absolutely. And I've heard a lot that it's about, and really we all should do this anyway because I am a huge advocate of vegetables. I think they're the most delicious thing on the planet. But I've heard a lot that it's about kind of reforming your relationship with vegetables because you were taught that broccoli was yucky and you shouldn't eat your peas and you hate those things, right?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you aren't going to love like butternut squash or something that's a little more different and out there. So I always love vegan food because it's kind of bringing different options to the forefront.
Yeah. I think
like
it makes
jackfruit. What the heck?
Food in different ways.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I love that.
Because I can tell you growing up, I hated jackfruit. I think jackfruit smells like grandma's attic stuffed with a dead body wrapped in gym socks. I mean, that's just my humble opinion.
Don't sugarcoat it there, Jen.
I'll tell you what I really think. But yeah, because in Jamaica we would eat the ripe jackfruit, and ripe jackfruit has a very distinct smell. So when I found out about using jackfruit as pork, I was like, I am not gonna join that bandwagon because that thing stinks. But then you realize it's not even the ripe jackfruit; it's the green jackfruit that you're using. And I would never have thought of using green jackfruit because we don't eat green jackfruit in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have to use it to make pulled pork because we just eat pork.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, so now I think going vegan, it just challenges you to look at food in a different way. And what I've learned really is that a lot of what we associate with meat, like, you know how everything tastes like chicken?
Yes.
You have something new and it tastes like chicken. That's because we associate certain herbs and spices with chicken. So we're not really tasting the chicken. We're tasting the herbs and spices and the seasonings. So if you put those same herbs and spices and seasonings on something else and cook it in the way you would cook chicken, then it's going to taste like chicken. And that's kind of the approach that I use for my cooking. So I use the same herbs and spices that I would use on fish or on beef, and I would use it on some vegetable, and then I'd work on the texture. And then you'd end up with something that has all that familiar taste that you grow up eating, and it honors that nostalgia in some way, and it satisfies the whatever you're craving for.
That makes sense a lot, because I've even noticed that just as I grow up, I'll be like, I really want ice cream. Like, that's what I want, right? This is the only thing I could have right now that will satisfy my hunger is a bowl of ice cream. Mm-hmm. And then I eat it and I'm like, that wasn't what I wanted at all. Mm-hmm. Like, it turns out that I didn't actually even know what I wanted in the first place. I think that we're a little more out of tune with food than we like to think we are. Not to go so crazy out there with that idea, but I've noticed that a lot with myself recently. I'm like, oh, turns out I didn't really know what I wanted, but that wasn't it.
Yeah. Like, there's a lady that I follow, Colleen Patro. She does vegan, like a vegan podcast. She's amazing, right? And she always says, when someone says to me they're craving a steak, I don't fight them on that. Because if you say you're craving a steak, well, okay. But what I say to them is, well, perhaps you're craving fat and salt and a very specific texture, because your brain doesn't go, oh my God, we need a steak. Your brain will probably go, okay, so I need something fat, I need something salty, and I need that chewy texture.
Yeah.
And what if I could show you a way to get that same fat and salt and texture without involving the animal? Would you be interested in something like that? And I found that that's very difficult for someone to argue with. Like, no, I'm not craving fat and salt. Okay, so then what are you craving? A steak. So what does the steak do for you? Well, it's fat and salt and
saltiness. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Right? That definitely makes a lot of sense. It's and I think that makes sense coming from your food science sort of background.
Yeah.
That you're then interested in, like, no, I don't want you to just tell me you're interested in a steak. I want you to get down to the nitty-gritty of what you're craving, and then I'll give you that. That makes a lot of sense. So for you, I've heard it 1,000 times, and I'd like to know what your take on it is. I actually know a few people who've wanted to start restaurants, have kicked around the idea. They love to cook. They love to feed people. But they said they could never start their own restaurant because they don't have a background in, being a server, being a manager of a restaurant, being a cook. Mm-hmm. What do you say to them?
I say, think about ways around that. Like, when we jumped into it, in all the 500 gazillion jobs that I've done, I had never worked in a restaurant. I'd never been a server. I had never been a restaurant manager. I'd never been a cook. You would bring, when we had opened the cafe, I was looking for restaurant equipment, and there are some things I'm like, these things exist. What is that? Like, what do you do that? And I think there are creative ways to get around that, and the approach is one of two things, and it all boils down to what your financial resources are. One, if you have the financial resource to hire out the things that you can't do that. If you are fantastic at cooking, but you don't know anything about running a restaurant and pricing and all of that, because that's a whole different kind of worms, hire somebody who is 500 million times smarter than you are at doing that, and let them do that, so that you can focus on the thing that you love and the thing that you're great at. If you find that you don't have the immediate resources to do that, find inexpensive ways for you to be that person until you don't have to be that person. There are accounting systems out there. Some are free, some are at a low cost, some are at major costs. There are things that will help you to price your food. You can engage family members, engage friends. There are so many people. You'd be surprised how many people are rooting for you once you've actually put your foot out there. There are people who genuinely want to see you succeed, and they will come in and they will donate their time and things that they know just to see you move forward. So don't be afraid to engage your tribe, engage your community, your family, and even people on social media. I have gotten so much help from people on Instagram, so many suggestions from people on Facebook. We were doing this event at the Orlando Museum of Art the other day, and someone emailed me and she was like, "Hey, Chef Jenn, you don't know me, but I live right behind Oma. I would absolutely love to come and help you serve that day. All I want is just some food for payment. How about that?" And I'm like, there are people who do that.
Yeah.
And I think that if we are very clear about our intentions and we start to put in the work, because they're not going to come in and do the work for you first. They have to see that you're working your tail off, and then they'll go, okay, I can jump onto this. But if people see that you're putting in the work and you're passionate and you're clear about what you want to do, more often than not, help comes in many different ways. And also, we should never get into the idea that just because I don't know everything, it doesn't mean it means I'm not qualified or that I shouldn't do this thing. I have yet to meet a person who knows everything about everything, or even everything about the thing they're supposed to know. I think one of the biggest disservice as entrepreneurs that we can do for aspiring entrepreneurs is to not be honest with them about the difficulties and the challenges that we face. Because if there's a day that I wake up where something is going terribly wrong with interpersonal skills at the cafe, or we burnt something, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I bought the wrong equipment, or I don't have the right license, or I feel like, oh, okay, this is a day where people are going to realize that I really don't know what I'm doing, because that imposter syndrome is real, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We don't share that with people. Someone starting out with these same fears, because they don't think we experience those fears, they think that they're not on the right path. I can't be doing it right because everything seems to be going perfect for Jenn and things are falling apart here. So I can't be doing it right for sure. Jenn's doing it right, but I'm not. And that's not true. Jenn's world could be going up in flames too.
True. Yeah. I mean, you can't expect, you are running a business. I always hate that when people say people only put the highlights, the good things that are happening on social media. Well, you are running a business. Mm-hmm. You can't go on your business social media and say, yeah, totally effed up today. I screwed up in these 3 ways, and then write that every day, right? That's not going to be great for business. But moments like this where you're getting so honest about what it looks like to be an entrepreneur and what it looks like to jump into something you have no background in, I mean, that's huge. That's important. So thank you so much for being on the show and doing this, because this is awesome.
No problem. But I think that even with social media, okay, so you don't want to be a negative Nancy, right?
Right.
Because people get turned off from that. But are you familiar with the hero's journey?
No.
And it's one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned. It's like mind-blowing, like, right?
Okay.
So have you seen Hercules?
Yes.
Don't you think you're getting easier?
Yes. We'll start singing all the songs.
That is like the epitome of the hero's journey. And if you look at a lot of movies, it's the same thing. So it starts out with someone at some point realizing this person is at home, and they realize, okay, there's something that I'm missing. I'm an outcast, or I'm not living up to whatever expectations I think I should have, but I don't even know what those expectations are. I'm not happy, something is missing, which is exactly what happened with young Hercules, right?
Yes.
He realizes he's not from this place, and he wants to form a relationship with his father, Zeus. That's the start of the hero's journey. And on that journey, he has to leave where he started, because he has to go on this journey, right, to become worthy of being with his father, Zeus. So he leaves his home country, he goes to another place, and on that way, he meets a mentor, that little goat person.
Yes.
Right? That was
his...
Oh, okay. So you clearly know this better than I do.
I was a Disney kid, so.
So, and that's the same thing for us in business. Like, if you were to apply that to your business life, okay, so here is something, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, and this is the journey that I have to take from here to there. And on that journey, I'm going to find people who know things that I don't know, who can mentor me, who have made some of the big mistakes that I don't have to fall into, because I can learn from them, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal. And he works his tail off, and he doesn't get it right the first time, and he doesn't get it right the second time, but he's getting it eventually. And that's how it is in business. And then he becomes this massive hero, and people love him, and they buy his shoes and his cups and all of it. One day somebody will buy my shoes, I swear.
Yeah.
They buy his shoes and cups and all of that, and everybody's cheering him on. And he has this one major downfall, right? He falls in love, and Hades wants to take away everything. And Hades fights him, and he dies. Or almost dies, or gets his butt beaten, or whatever. And that's how it is in business as well. There are days where we're going to be the hero, and there are days where we're going to go from hero to zero, where things are going to go so bad. But here's what I've realized about my tribe on social media. There is a way to be transparent without being negative or appearing to be pathetic or complaining.
Yes.
Because I think people want to cheer for you if they realize that you're not as perfect and you don't have it all together, because then that makes you relatable, right? Because people have a tendency to cheer for, people want to see a comeback.
Yeah.
We're big, like the comeback. So if you make a mistake or something, if you share that, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be at this place anymore. I'm not really sure what we're having next, but we're planning this and that. And here are some of the things that I'm working on. People will cheer for that. Can you believe today I went into the cafe and we burnt this giant pot of rice? Do you burn rice at home? And they're like, yeah, you do that too? Yeah. And then that immediately makes you relatable, right? And they're like, dang it. If they burn rice, and it's okay that I burn rice, but she's going to be open tomorrow and she's going to be serving, guess what? Rice. If she can come back from a pot of burnt rice, dang it, I can come back from this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you're exactly right. It's got to be the balance of that. Yeah. And I think that's what makes social, that kind of makes or breaks people on social media, is finding your balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this. You are awesome, Jen. Let's talk forever. This episode's going to be 7 hours long. I'm going to do this. And no, that's not just me avoiding packing and moving.
Congratulations on the move, by the way.
What was that?
Congratulations on the move, or what comes after.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. I'm moving in with my boyfriend and my sister, so I'm excited.
Nice.
Be downtown near better food is actually what I'm most excited about.
It's all about the food.
It's always all about the food. I'm glad we agree on this. So
I have a shirt that says, yeah, I'm just here for the food.
Yeah. That's perfect. My boyfriend will text me, so were you thinking about dinner? I'm like, I'm always thinking about dinner. When are you going to realize this?
Have we met?
Right? I am always thinking about the next meal. I've got it planned out. So, Jen, if you're ready, I am ready to head into the 3 Creative Women's League musts.
Okay.
Okay. The first one is, what is one thing every badass woman should read, watch, or listen to?
So, every badass woman must absolutely read The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women, Why Capable People Suffer from the Impostor Syndrome, and How to Thrive in Spite of It by Valerie Young.
That's amazing. I have not heard of this book.
It is an amazing book. I think we touched briefly on the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Right? It's this idea, people who are otherwise capable, it's a psychological pattern that causes us to doubt our accomplishments. And we have this idea like, when is the next shoe going to drop? Or when are people going to wake up and realize that I'm this massive fraud?
Yes.
That's the imposter syndrome. And we all suffer from it in varying degrees. But this book helps you realize that, one, you're not the only one who feels that way. Two, there's nothing wrong with you feeling that way. And here's how we conquer this feeling and we still do what we need to get done.
I love it. I'm going to go download it right now. I need it. I need it in my life. Okay. Yeah. And then we should also probably mention, because you mentioned, and I don't know the exact name of it, but the book, the 5-Second Rule book.
Yes.
That book's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
That's Mel Robbins, right? Is that Mel Robbins?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. We should include that in the notes too, because that's a big one for me. I am always a put it off till later person. And
no, you got to do it.
You got to do it, especially if you want to be an awesome entrepreneur. Like, come on, get on the ball.
Got to do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move.
Go. I need that. Okay, and who is one woman we should all go follow right now?
Okay, so I am going to butcher her name because I've never actually heard it pronounced.
Okay.
But my secret crush, my forever heroine, is someone named Ijeoma Umebinyuo.
Okay.
It's IjeomaUmebinyuo. And she is this, she's from Nigeria. She wrote this amazing book called Questions for Ada. And she is the epitome of a fierce feminist, right? She talks about the human, perspective. And then she talks about the female experience. And then she gets very specific to the Black female experience, right? And she's so powerful and empowering in her words. She talks about what it is to be, to live in another country. She talks about what it is to take ownership of your being, of yourself, what it is to take up space, what it is to sit with the pain. Like, one of the things she says is, when the pain comes, you kind of have to sit with it and deal with it and learn from it, but then don't stay there. She has really empowering things. I think, can I share with you my favorite quote from her?
Absolutely. Please do.
It's fairly long, but
here
it goes. And it resonates so much with me because I am an immigrant as well. I'm from Jamaica. And you always find these people who come from another country for many different reasons, who in their homeland were different people.
Yeah.
And she wrote about that. She's like, here's to the security guards who maybe had a degree in another land. Here's to the manicurist who had to leave her family to come here, painting the nails, scrubbing the feet of strangers. Here's to the janitors who don't understand English yet work hard despite it all. Here's to the fast food workers who work hard to see their family smile. Here's to the laundromat at the Marriott who told me with a sparkle in his eyes how he was an engineer in Peru. Here's to the bus driver, the Turkish Sufi who almost danced when I quoted Rumi. Here's to the harvesters who live in fear of being deported for coming here to open the road for their future generation. Here's to the taxi drivers from Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, and India who gossip amongst themselves. Here's to them waking up at 4 a.m., calling home to hear the voices of their loved ones. Here is to their children. To the children who, despite it all, become artists and writers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, activists, and rebels. Here's to international money transfer for never forgetting home. Here's to children, here's to their children who carry the heartbeats of their motherland and even in sleep speak with pride about their fathers. Keep on.
Well, the problem is that I'm very PMSy, so I didn't need you to quote something that was going to make me cry, but that is beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have to all go follow her right now.
Yes.
Yes, that's wonderful. We're going to switch gears, you jerk. I'm a crier, so anything sentimental like that will just rip my heart out. I'm like, my boyfriend's going to keep a list of all the reasons why I cry. But I love that. And we'll have her information in the show description so everybody can just click and follow her with 2 clicks. It'll be great.
Fabulous.
Yes. And then last but not least, what is one mantra, quote, or affirmation you lean on often?
You are not powerful enough to break me. No one is.
Yes. That is awesome.
That's it.
Yes. But it's so different from a lot of the quotes we have on here. And I love it. That's huge because sometimes you feel like other people are going to break you. But no.
Yeah. And I think that's life though, because we can't operate in a vacuum. We have to allow people in, and you get attached to people, family, friends, loved ones. And by allowing yourself to be loved, you give them this room to hurt you in unimaginable ways. But hurting you and breaking you are 2 different things. So I think it's so freeing to allow yourself to be loved, knowing that no matter what happens, this person does not have the capability of breaking you.
Yes.
That you don't have to be afraid of loving with reckless abandon, because even if that love turns awfully sour, that you will not be broken, and that nobody can break you.
Nobody.
To me, that's empowering.
Yeah. Yes. That's super empowering because you just have those little moments, and like you said, it can come from imposter syndrome, self-doubt, whatever it is, but to remember in the end that nobody can break you. That is fantastic. I love it, Jen. I love it. I'm energized now. This has been awesome. Okay, you and I've got to come over to the restaurant. I have not been. My sister is vegan, and she was like, I don't know what you're doing, not getting over there and eating. So we're going to have to hang out. That's it. I've decided it.
You have 1 month, or you have 26 days left in this month to do it at the gas station. After that, we're going to be in Eatonville.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the Eatonville location would be closer to me. Where is the gas station for our Orlando listeners?
The gas station is at 4845 North Orange Blossom Trail, close to the Lee intersection. So where
okay.
Blossom Trail intersects with Lee Road.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show. I will see you either at the gas station or in Eatonville.
Yeah, you're welcome so much. Thank you for having me.
So before we go, will you tell everybody where to find you?
Yeah, so in person, you can find us at the Cafe and Creamery at 4845 North Orange Blossom Trail. In July, we'll be at 323 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite F in Eatonville. This is on a main street right beside Town Hall. Okay. Right across from the library. You can also find us on social media. So we are on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter. Our handles on all of those is DaJen Eats. That's DaJeneats. And you can check out our website, DaJeneats.com.
Thank you so much. This episode has been fantastic, and I'm sorry I coughed through it.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks, Jen.
I know. Don't you freaking love her? Now, that story is massively inspiring. We all handle things in different ways, but the fact that she took a divorce and turned it into one of the best moves of her life, that's amazing. Thank you so much for listening today. Head on over to follow Jen. Her information is in the show description. And of course, I want to be shouting out your name on the podcast next week. So go leave that review on iTunes or on our Facebook. Leave your Instagram name and I will be talking about you. I'll check you out on Instagram at Creative Women's League. Don't forget to use that hashtag Creative Women Rock. Join the Facebook group, Creative Women's League on Facebook. And I think that's all the homework I have for you. I love you guys so much. You are all fantastic. Thank you so much for listening to another wonderful episode of the Creative Women's League podcast. I'll be back Monday with another fantastic Mindful Monday. Love you. Bye. You're still here? It's over. Go home.